Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to the Do WIT podcast. My name is Sarah Hernholm. I'm the host of the Do WIT podcast and the founder of WIT, Whatever It Takes. It is a nonprofit organization that helps young people launch businesses, create social movements, and most importantly, just activate their entrepreneurial mindset so that they can take action on their ideas and make an impact in their world, and also just realize that they matter and that their ideas matter and they are needed in this world and we value them. That's really big for us here at WIT. And I have a special guest on the Do WIT podcast. We have a recent graduate of the WIT program who is in her first year of college, her first semester of college. It's crazy. That's such a long time ago for me, but I remember it very clearly, like very clearly. So we'll have fun talking about that. I'd like to welcome Charlotte Wasserman to the show, the founder of It's a Girl's Life.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that great intro. And it was so fun to hear again, like what WIT does and how special it is, because it's really like a great program. And as you said, I was involved a lot last year, last school year, I guess you would say. I did the WIT PR and intro to PR and marketing course. And that was amazing because it really taught me like a lot of the things I use on a day-to-day basis, even since I've done everything with WIT, which has just been like a great way to be able to share what I'm doing, which is like I started this nonprofit, It's a Girl's Life, like you said, and be able to get that message out to many more people, which I think is always really important when you have something that you're doing that's really cool. Not that, well, yeah. Anyways,
no, we can dive.
That's
more.
not what I meant, but I think that I was just trying to say, like, when people have because there's a lot of teens out there that are doing really special things, and it's really important to be able to share with the world what you're doing and become comfortable with that. And that was something I struggled with a lot. So
yeah, I definitely want to get into that a little bit. Though, because obviously this podcast is for that young entrepreneur. We want you to learn from those who have gone before you or are walking right alongside you on the entrepreneurial journey. But I really want to hear like how college is going, because I don't want to, I don't want to have any leading questions, but I'm really curious about what that experience has been like for you so far.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to talk about that today, just because I've been on this podcast before, actually. And so if you guys haven't listened to that episode, it goes into a lot of details about It's a Girl's Life and why I started it. But I'm in such a different place now, which is really weird to like look back on that and know like I'm the same person, but such a different person. And I would say it's even crazy to like come back home because I'm on fall break right now and like see everything, but with different eyes. That I'm like not that like I'm not like in high school and like hearing like I was literally getting my nails done today and the person next to me was a high schooler going to homecoming and she was talking about her homecoming plans. I was like, that was my whole world last year and for the past 4 years, knowing like that's not really a part of me anymore. It's very strange, but college is going really well. There's obviously so many aspects of it. It was a really necessary experience for me because I was really ready for a change and I really needed to be pushed outside of my comfort zone from high school and meet new people who have different upbringings and different ways of thinking about life. So it was super necessary. And I've been learning so much about people, about myself, making lots of mistakes. And
okay, let's talk about those. Let's talk about, I mean, I can even see it in you and hear it in you that you've gone through a transition, an evolution. And I think that's so important for our high school listeners, because I think so many of our high school listeners, that the time that they're living right now feels so major and so intense, and it's all the things, and right, because that was you not that long ago. And now you're here and you're probably feeling that like, wait, I can't, like, this is very different than that. And you probably are listening to that person talking about homecoming and just being like, I'm in such a different world right now. That is not even, and I can't believe I stress so much about that stuff, because now is that true for you?
It's homecoming, but it's also like, I was so stressed like 2 years ago about SAT and ACT prep. And even though it didn't really, I could go test optional, which is actually like how I got into school I'm going to now. But that doesn't really matter. That's like a whole different topic. But even like that stressed me out so much. And like, even like in high school and senior year, which was about a year ago, I was applying to colleges, and like November 1st is coming up in less than a month. And that date was like huge. It was taking up everything. That's the only thing people wanted to talk about, was where are you going to college, where you want to go. And to know that like I was really set on different schools a whole year ago than the school I'm at right now is insane. And to know that I didn't decide and wasn't confident in the decision that the place I'm at right now until February of last year is also crazy, because I already applied to all my schools. I just had to make a decision, and I was hearing back too. So that process, like, and the amount of stress like everyone was putting on it is crazy, because I don't feel that anymore. And that's something that everyone will go through, is like you experience things that you put so much stress on and they happen, and you don't feel the same thing you felt about them.
Are you at the school that you thought you were going to go to?
It depends. Well, when I was applying to colleges, no. But when later on, I became super confident in the choice that I was making, my final decision. And like, once I submitted my deposit, I was like sold on the school I'm at right now. And I can see a lot of like what I was hoping for, like, come into fruition, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Did you have to
go ahead?
I'm really like, when I make decisions that I feel like have a lot of weight to them, I like analyze them a lot. So like, it wasn't
probably
just like
overanalyze them.
Yes. But it like made me feel more comfortable when I did that, because I was like wanting to be sure. So
okay, well, that's good. If it's a healthy analyzing,
I think it was, honestly.
Okay, good. We want to be careful of the overanalyzing or the ruminating, and
that's a different situation that I've experienced before. It's not helpful. But
did you experience any school rejections that were hard for you, that you thought you were going to get into schools and you didn't get those? And you survived those, it looks like. You survived them.
Last year I ED'd to a specific school that I did not get into, and I saw myself there. So
that's so
I don't
real.
see myself there anymore, but I did.
Did you? I mean, that's, oh my gosh, that's so
and
real.
I had a program picked out and everything.
You did.
It was perfect for me. And it was exactly what I thought I wanted to do. And it was the place I wanted to be. And I visited and I really liked it. And I met people, and I thought I meshed so well with those people. Like, why wouldn't the school pick me? Like, I thought I was just like, I knew it was a reach, but I thought they could take a chance, and it would be a really good chance they took on me.
Okay. So let's talk about that moment, because not many people talk about that, right? In this podcast, I want to talk about the things that people don't usually talk about with young people.
I agree.
And so where were you when you got that? Okay. Most people know.
I know exactly where I was.
Okay. Tell us.
I tell you.
Yeah. Tell us where you were.
So it's night 4 out of night 5 of midterm exams, senior year, winter break. My Spanish exam is the next morning at 8 a.m. I have to be back at school. I've taken 4 exams already, so, I'm pretty tired. Winter break is very soon, less than 24 hours away. I won't have to worry about any of the exams because I've already taken all of them. But I'm like super into doing well in school. So I was, stressing myself out still. And I knew my college decisions were coming out that same night. So I was like contemplating, like I knew the time. I'm pretty sure it was like 8 p.m. EST. Like I was going to be like on my computer ready to open the letter.
By yourself or with your parents?
It was after dinner, and I had dinner with my mom. This is like really specific, but I had dinner with my mom, and I told her that I didn't want to open it with her because I just wanted to like see what it was and move on in a way.
And I'm just thinking, I'm just going to tell you a perspective for everyone, even though I don't have children. I obviously work with a lot of teens, and the way your mom probably felt in that moment where she knew that you wanted to do it alone, but she probably wanted it more for you than you did. Right. Because we all just want you to be happy. We all want you to have the things, even though we also know that sometimes you don't get the thing because something else is better for you.
Yes.
You being okay is so important to us. And so I'm just having this feeling of like how your mom probably felt that night when, so, okay. So you're like, I don't want to.
Yeah. And this is my early decision. Like it was that, or it was, the rest of the schools I applied to. But if I got that decision, I was going to that school. So it was like huge. And then like the time it rolls around, I'm like waiting, refreshing my emails every like few minutes. And a letter pops in. And so I go and open it, and it's like a rejection letter. It just says like, "Dear Charlotte Wasserman, like there is so many great applicants, like unfortunately, like we can't offer you like a spot at our school." They all say kind of the same thing, which is whatever, it's fine. And obviously that didn't feel great because no news like that ever does. There's no other way to put it.
I would imagine there were some tears on that.
No, I didn't cry.
You didn't cry? Okay.
No, because I was someone who set myself up in a way where I tried really hard to be okay with knowing that like I could get a rejection. But that's like a very interesting response, because I saw people who got rejected from the schools they really wanted to go to, and that was not the response they had at all. So if that's not what your response is, and that's coming up and happening for you, like it's also really normal. And like
that's good to share that people can have different reactions.
And I don't know why I don't know how I handled it that way. We're all different, so we handle things differently. So it's like, maybe it's not normal that I did, but I don't know.
No, it's let's not say that it's normal, because it's what you did.
Right. But whatever. So that happened. And then I had to go tell my mom, right? Because she wasn't sitting there. So I was like, okay, so now like we have to put it out into the universe.
I know we have to make it the reality.
Place, which is like hard, because you can like keep things away and then you don't have to think about them. But I did. So I told her, and I don't remember. I think she was like, oh, like obviously she was really sad. And then she's like, oh, like it was just like an upsetting thing, obviously, for both of us. But then I think I was probably the person who was like, well, it's okay, because I have all these colleges to look forward to, like hopefully receiving some good news from. But she was like, yeah, you should be upset though, which I was like upset, but then I was like, I was so torn in emotions, like how I was supposed to feel. It's weird.
There's also nothing there. There's a couple of sides to that, right? Because what's the option? You can feel sad and disappointed, but there's nothing.
Well, it doesn't. I think you're somebody that doesn't get you into the school if you're disappointed.
Exactly.
So I like didn't know what to do, because I knew that.
Yeah, I think you're someone who, just because I've known you for over a year, I think you're someone who also, if you really look at a situation, you would look at yourself and go, there's really nothing else I could have done.
Yes.
And so if you, knowing that about your personality, there's a bit of, I left it all on the field. And ultimately, like if they don't want me, then it really can't be a fit, because I did everything I possibly could. It's not like you're sitting there going, damn it, that's why I wish I would have done blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. I should have done. Like you didn't have any should have. And that's very good. I think that's really good.
And I think that's like a really good tip to, like, if you really want something, then you have to like do everything in your power, because then it will help you kind of like process the bad news, if that makes sense.
Because then what else could you have done?
Right. And then you can also say it's a them problem, and that they're missing out on a good candidate.
Of course, I feel that way. Yeah, of course I feel that way. Of course I feel like the college applications are like dating. It's like, if somebody doesn't want you, like, what are you gonna do? Like cry and beg them for it? It's like, no, it's like no, I'm not chasing you.
Then they missed out on me. Yeah. So I like to think of it in that way too, which made it more like easier to kind of think about it. Was
there any, because I know that I hear this a lot from young people that are going through this process, the pressure. So it's one thing that you find out, and then you're telling your mom, but then telling friends in the social life and school was that hard? Yeah. What was that like? Because I think, and the reason we're having this conversation and we're going to share this is because for young people to hear you go through this, if they happen to go through it themselves, they're like, okay, well, Charlotte says like it does get better, and Charlotte went to this, now she's like the school that she's at. It also helps the people that do get into it their school, the ED, to have more empathy for their friends and not rubbing it in the fence, right? Like rubbing it in the face. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like when you had to go. I mean, I would say like, you don't have to tell people, but like, come on, people, like eventually people are going to find out. So
no, right.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I don't know, something I learned about myself was that if I'm not like honest with like the people around me that I care about being honest to, like I'm uncomfortable. So it's almost better that I just tell them what's going on. Plus they're going to find out anyways, because I'm not going to end up going to that college, but
you won't be seeing them there. So
no, I won't be at that school. So it was really hard in some ways because I felt like, well, also it's hard when you're like hard on yourself and you think that people like judge you for like not getting into a really hard school, but then you're like, no one really gets into that school. So it's like, it's very hard, but a little part of me was like disappointed, like that I couldn't say that I got into this like semi-reach, actually like actual reach of a school, because I was like, well, if I can get into this school, like then maybe that would like prove something of myself when I don't really need to like prove anything of myself. People just think that way, that they do. And like
so real.
A name on a school proves more to like people like what they think it means than like it actually means anything.
Well, but I think what's honest there is that's because you've done that. The only reason that you think that people are going to do that is because you have done that to yourself or to somebody else. So that's the only reason. If you're someone like me who applied to one college and did it almost last minute and then barely got in, it's like, whatever. I don't have that noise. I never had that kind of college noise just because of who I was, which is whatever, my own story. But I've had tons of noise in other areas and tons of things where I've put weight and leverage and validity on things outside of myself. So there's something in you and in anybody who does this that has said, I will see myself as something better than, or I will hold myself in higher regard. And I know other people will, if I get into the school, because I do that to other people.
I guess that would make sense, because how else would I be thinking that way if I didn't think of myself? So I never thought about that, but that's very interesting.
Well, the reason we want to have that moment of discovery is because then we put things back on ourselves. And when we have things on it, if we can own it, then we can handle it and we can face it. If it's somebody else's stuff, it becomes very confusing. You have to wait for them to change. They're not going to.
Thinking about like, you have to validate yourself first, because if you don't, then you're gonna be waiting for like something you can't control, which is another person's like permission or like validation
or acceptance.
That's what I meant.
So take us through what it was like going to school the next day. Oh my gosh, taking that exam. That was fun.
Yeah.
It
it was after staying up till like really late, because I like finally had to sit down and study. I was like, this is just not how it's gonna work, but it happened and we survived, and you get through those moments. That happens to you too. Well, I didn't have to really talk to anyone about it because I just took my exam and I left, but I obviously texted my friends about it, so they knew, and they were obviously like comforting over text, as people would be. And then it was really interesting because the school that I go to now actually had their decisions sent out the following day. So that changed something, because the day exact after, I knew I'd be finding out possibly really good news about a different school. And even though I didn't know I was going to go to that school, it still like was like, getting good news anyways. And they did get good news. It just wasn't the school. I didn't know if I was going to go there yet. So we didn't really, it didn't have like meaning. Other than like I got in, which is good. And I was sitting at dinner for that too. So it was like all these really random events.
So many different emotions. So many different emotions on that 24
in the same 24 hours is very strange, because there was so many things happening too. It wasn't like, oh, I just got like my ED rejection, but I also had to take a test. So like that was super hard. Because and it was Spanish, and I don't really like Spanish. So,
so it's just good that people can, a day in a life of
that's like real for you.
Like
it's like
senior.
Everything's going on at once.
Thank God for winter break though. I think think it's nice that winter break hits, that
Yeah,
people
I
can
might have
process
gotten,
alone.
yeah, no, that was it, because then it was winter break right after that. So I also had that to look forward to.
Mhm.
And like being off from school for 2 weeks. But definitely like then it was really hard because like I guess someone from my school finally did get accepted into school IED too, and she goes
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
That was also really interesting because I talked to a bunch of girls after I got rejected and they also got rejected. And then we found the one girl who actually got in, and it was like, I think it was like an ED2 application. So I don't really know how that works because I never got to that step, but like, I don't really know if that actually matters, but I just remember being like, oh, wow, like at least they took one of us from our school because I go to this really prestigious, like all girls school. I was like, they better take someone. But then when I learned like a bunch of other people who were really smart also didn't get in, I didn't feel as bad because I was like, oh, I don't know what they're doing. But
This is like why, I have such strong feelings about this
oh yeah,
college process,
the
because it's
process
just on
is messed
16-year-old,
up.
I would say like 17-year-old brains, like, and emotions.
And they're
There's
not like developed. So it's
no, and
really
you're
hard.
like, and adults are telling you that if you don't, like, you got to get into the college because that's how you're going to have a great life. And if
Yeah, it's
anyone's comes to
super.
WIT, you're going to learn that that's not true, because we have so many hangout guests that come in and say, oh gosh, no, like I had no idea what I was doing. And I went to one school and I graduated and I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And now I
Yeah.
am an agent, like whatever it is, it's not, but I always say that the reason adults don't do a better job of minimizing the pressure on young people is because so many people make money off of you all being stressed out, because
Mm,
those tutoring companies make money.
yeah. It's really
Those
frustrating.
the schools, those private prep schools that I went to, that you went
Yes.
to, make money.
Oh
We're gonna
yeah.
get, so everyone's like, if we take the pressure off and let everybody in on a big secret that there's, you're gonna be okay if you don't get into the
Yeah.
top college,
Yeah. It's like,
then people are gonna lose a lot of money.
yeah. Um, I agree because I knew my school was, they definitely post in the Cleveland, whatever the schools everyone gets into and how
Mhm.
many girls get into Ivy Leagues and the percentage of people that get into the schools they wanted. And
Yeah.
this school has 4 students from our school. It's like, okay, but like what that doesn't like mean like they're like instant, like super successful people. They're like making an impact on like a bunch of people for like something. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything, but they love to, say it does, and it's
And I
good.
think it's important
But
to say here as well that we've had plenty of kids get into their top, like the top choice school that they wanted, and transfer after the first
right.
year. So that
It's
also
like
happens.
it doesn't it also it's like just because you get in, like I realized, I got in and I made my decision, I made my deposit, but that was like the start. Like then I have to actually figure out like what I want to do at the school and like how I want that to look. And like it's just like one thing happens and it's like really good and exciting, but then it's like now you have to live with like that decision you made and like figure out what do you want to do with that, because it doesn't like mean anything when you get in.
Well,
It
it means
means like what you
something,
put
but
into it.
it doesn't guarantee you're going to be happy once you
Right.
move in,
So
and
that's what I'm
if you're
like
going to,
talking about, kind of.
yeah. So
It doesn't.
you're on the first break home, right? This is the
Yes,
first break
it's
home.
the first break.
It's always such an interesting time. This is like weird. It's not, I was gonna say this is a fun fact. It's not a fun fact, but, and this doesn't relate to Charlotte, is that this is usually the break that a lot of people break up that were in high school couples.
Oh, I was curious. Yeah.
Because this is the break. The first break is usually the one people come home and they're like, okay, because it's like college is just so different than high school,
Oh
and you're
my
living
God,
such
it's
different lives, and
extremely different.
your social life is so different. So this is usually the
Super
break where
different.
people have that feeling of, whoa, I feel super different in my house.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Because usually there are people that have had so much freedom at college and they come home and it just feels, and you've grown, and your parents haven't been around for that growth. And so they're adjusting to this version of you that's had these experiences
Yes.
over the last couple months. And then like I said, sometimes people break up because they're like, okay, this isn't working. This long distance thing isn't working. So there's a lot of things that are happening during this time. So
It's a lot of moving pieces.
yeah, I'd love to hear that you could share with our listeners and those that are watching. What were some of the things that you like? Well, so let's start with the positive. Let's start with something that you were really surprised that you have liked about college.
I would say I'm surprised about the like the not having so much structure, and like how much I found once I found how to make it work for me, it's been really enjoyable because it's super different from high school. And like I mean, I add structure into my life, but like it's not like real structure. Like the only real structure I have is like classes.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it is kind of like structure and air quotes, because it's not like, I don't have to be at the gym at this specific time every day, but I do that because it makes me feel comfortable. So, um, it's a lot of like that, like that's like one major thing. And obviously sometimes that doesn't work. And like I've made so many mistakes along the way of like a few days ago, I was taking a nap and I did not set my alarm and I missed the meeting I was supposed to go to. That was really bad. And like I've made so many mistakes where it's been like fully on my responsibility that it's been really like embarrassing, because I don't like to make mistakes like that. Or like our talk, like last week, I didn't find the right spot to do the recording.
Yeah, this is a round 2 of the podcast.
Yeah, because I messed up the first time. So that type of stuff, when I realized that it's my responsibility, I could have avoided it, is uncomfortable, as it would be for other lots of reasons, which is why I'm sharing it, because hopefully people will be like, it's okay, because other people felt that. But
yeah, but I'll give you credit, because the thing that you do really well, which this is a big part of WIT too, and we really push this at WIT, is that you did mess up. You weren't prepped for our time. But the first thing that you did was, even in real time, you owned it. You didn't make excuses for it. And then you wrote an email that just said, I mean, I know, like, basically, I know better than this and I should have done differently. And like, I'll be ready next time. And I've always said, when you own it, if somebody still comes at you, that's their stuff. If you own it and you take responsibility, you're good. You can't control if all of a sudden I'm like, well, that's totally unacceptable, Charlotte, and you cannot do this. Like, you're like, I know, I already said it was. Like, I already said it was. So like, leave me alone. And of course, I mean, I didn't write.
No,
not
at all. I didn't. No.
But I just think in a world full of people making excuses for so many things, when you're somebody who understands that everybody messes up, everybody makes mistakes, but you can stand out because you actually take responsibility for the times when you do make a mistake. That's great. That's all you can do.
That's huge.
Are you just realizing
everybody to do that?
Are you just realizing in college that high school gave you more structure, which maybe you pushed up against a little bit because it felt like so tight, maybe, but now you're like, whoa, now I have so much freedom.
Yeah. And I knew that was coming.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because that's like all they talk about. Like, you'll have so much freedom in college or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you come and it was a weird realization, because yes, I do have much more time than I did in high school, but it gets like, if you don't take advantage of like making some sort of way of time management that works for you, it will get eaten up so quickly. And you will just end up like, I don't know what I did the first few weeks of college when I was still like confused. I don't know. It just like, at some point it just like started to get to like 5 o'clock. I hadn't done any homework and I was like, where did all the time go? So it's like it was like weird, because it's like more time yet less time. And like, it was kind of really surprising how both things, which are opposites, seem true at the same time. I didn't like that.
What about, so juggling school is real, the homework, and honestly, friends, like in college, you also like don't have to go to class. I mean, it'll impact your grade, but no
one's like
saying like you got to get. No, that's what I always tell people. They're like, well, you didn't remind me. I'm like, why am I reminding you? Like, you're taking a college credit class at WIT. Like, understand, like in college, it's not your professor's job to keep DMing you and saying,
no, they won't like
2 more hours till the assignment is due. It's like, that's not their job. And
they won't even say anything.
So you had like at WIT, we're trying to get you somewhat prepped for that.
Yes.
And it's just so funny when teens are like, that's so mean. I'm like, our job is to prep you so that it's not super shocking. It's already going to be shocking. We're trying to like minimize the shock when you get there. Because I mean, WIT's very structured. I mean, know that at WIT we have expectations.
Yes.
We also don't hold your hand, and it's like,
And I'm grateful for the experiences that taught me that at an earlier time, because my high school was also very much like that to an extent. Obviously I was still surprised, so they couldn't do everything because you can't
Yeah.
teach them
Can't.
everything. You gotta let
Yeah.
them experience it for themselves. But like, I just realized that, it's kind of my choice if I want to do it. So
WIT tip, it's a choice.
yeah. And you have to realize if you want something, then you have to make that apparent by the actions that you take. And show, like, like you always say, showing up, but it's the same thing. Like if I went to college and I went to a hard high school, so I was prepared in some ways academically of like knowing how to study and stuff like that, but the content sometimes was still hard because it's just hard. It's not like easy stuff. Like you're going to college to be challenged. And so I was, I knew this, but I was just thinking about, because maybe some people don't, if something's hard, you have to like, do something different to like fix it. And like you can't just keep doing the same thing, because obviously that's not working. So like go meet with your teachers, for example, and like, you could be sitting in classes that are so big they're never going to know you unless you make yourself stand out. And that was something huge for me that I really wanted to do. So it was like, okay, even though this is like semi really uncomfortable, to like go like, talk to this teacher who I've been, looking at and watching her lectures, yet she doesn't know who I am at all. And, might not want really anything to do with me, but like, she's my teacher. So it's like, I can ask her like questions and stuff. Like you just got to do it, because or unless you won't get what you want and like want to do well.
So what about, okay, we've talked a little bit about the adjustment, a little bit about the academics. Okay, let's get into the real about the social life, because
that's
first semester
different.
of college, trying to make friends, girls, guys,
scary. Yeah.
Sorority,
all the above. Yeah.
Fraternity, your values, maybe even being challenged, your like maybe your
ethics,
compass, your
right?
ethics, like all those things
Yeah.
are like, oh, okay, so this is where I'm going to apply my compass.
It's very
in
weird
different ways. So let's talk,
because,
whatever you feel comfortable sharing, I think would be really helpful.
Right. So I think that it's very weird because school and high school is separate from social life, and you were only going to school to do school. But here, school and social life are in the same place, and they take place in the same, setting. So it's very like, obviously not in classrooms, you're not doing social things that you're doing on weekends, but you're on the same, like you're in the same dorm room, like when you're doing your homework, as when you're doing maybe something that's not school related at all. Which can kind of like show you conflicting situations where you might act differently, when you're doing your homework than what you're doing on the weekends. And you might value something when you're doing your homework, and you might not value that same thing like when you're, hanging out with your friends or like just relaxing or whatever. And that could go, you could, define that, whatever that means to you. But what I would say is that when I went into college, I knew that I had such a hard socially high school experience, where I went to school and how I grew up and just the people I was around. And it was really hard because my school was super into like cliques and like groups. And if you weren't in the it group, you weren't really like, I mean, it's really harsh, but you weren't what it was all about. So like people wouldn't really pay attention because, you weren't at the front and center. And that might have been really more apparent when I was younger, because as we got older, it kind of like dissolved, but it was still a huge thing. And once I got to college, I knew that I wanted to start to choose the people I wanted to be around. And I wanted to make it a point to myself, and like something that I would hold myself accountable to, that I was only going to look for people who I felt like I could be myself around, and not and be like comfortable around, like in my own skin around them, because I had my experiences with not doing that in high school, and that just attracted the wrong people, and I couldn't be myself, and that made me super uncomfortable. And it was super hard to like live up to expectations that I wasn't, because that's like, being someone fake, it's just too hard. Like it's a lot of effort.
Like you're contorting yourself. You're
Yeah. And
agreeing to
you
things that you don't
want to do.
You're saying things that aren't really true for you, and you're laughing at things that you actually don't really find funny. And
it's super uncomfortable. I don't really get why we do it, because it's literally the hardest thing ever. But
I know why we do it, because we desire connection so strongly. Like as human beings, we want connection, and we want community, and we want to, and so we do weird shit sometimes because we want it so badly. And if we're not getting it, we think, well, okay, maybe I can just compromise this little piece over here because it feels really good to like at least have someone to go do this with.
Yes.
And I think but eventually you can find that you've whittled away so much of who you are. You're like, it's not good anymore.
It doesn't like fulfill you, and it drains you, and it just doesn't make you feel good. So I was like, okay, I can't do that again. I can't go back to that experience. It's just too much. It was stressful. It was just like, I didn't have any morals or like anything. I didn't have values. Like, it was just weird. I didn't like it. Anyways, so I was just like, I have to be true to myself, and I have to like find people through that. And I knew it was possible because I just like have heard so many things about being true to yourself, and how that's the only way you can actually like find people who like admire you and respect you, and you just feel like you can be yourself around, which is like the biggest thing. And so somehow, like once I got to college, even though it's like this whole group of new people, no one knew who I was in high school. No one knew anything about me. No one had any like preconceived notions. And that was super exciting for me.
Yeah. I love that for you. Yeah.
And it was refreshing in the best way possible. So I could just like, be myself, and hope that like some people would accept that, which obviously they had, because I can speak to that now.
That's good.
Which is really nice. And I think that it's like weird. It's like a lot of like trust in something that I don't even know. Like, it's not like a tangible trust. It's just like trusting that it's going to somehow work out if I like stay true to myself and what I believe is, kind of like right versus wrong in a way. And I guess that like attracts people who also sort of believe in those things, or maybe not believe in those things, but like
probably value them, right?
Value,
because like attracts
not believe,
like,
but like
and
value. Yeah, like attracts like.
Yeah. So you're kind of the more honest and authentic you can be, then you'll find people that are also in alignment with those things. And that's kind of, I feel like that's the journey, especially in college, because you're on this campus. I mean, I know where you're going, and it's a totally different state than where you grew up, and it's a different culture there as well.
Oh
so
my
I
God.
can imagine,
and that's
like
crazy.
Like that is interesting.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just, I grew up in the Midwest. I go to school in the South, and granted, this school, like SMU where I go, it doesn't, it has a lot of people from different places that aren't just the South. So it's not like fully just going to like the deep South.
Yeah.
Right. So that's different, because it just has influence from like a lot of the people from California. So there's a lot of that there. And there's just a lot of people from a lot of different places, which is really fun, because all these people have different, ways of thinking about life. And like, it's fun to be able to talk to people about like how they grew up and how that impacts how they think about everything. But it's cool because, there's still some effect of like the South that is on the school, obviously.
Oh, sure.
And people are just like, I say this all the time, but the people are a lot nicer in a way.
I agree.
They have a lot, like there's a level of like manners that are very different from the Midwest. And one good example that I'm always impressed by was like guys who open the door for girls, just out of like,
should just be a norm.
It should be,
I don't
but
know
it's
why
it's
that
not.
became I don't know why that
I don't know. It's just like I was
became-
surprised by that. So that's just like, if you ever think about that, then we can relate about that. But
that's like that's an expectation for me. If someone's not doing that, I'm like, I
don't know.
Some people say that they don't like that because I've heard women say I can open my own door, and I'm like,
they don't like that because
so
they're making
can
a
I.
point.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I'm like, I can
agree with
too. I can also open my door, and I really enjoy it when somebody opens it for me. So both those things can exist. That I can do it myself, and that I enjoy somebody doing that for me.
Or just like overall, like a lot of people in the Midwest have cold shoulders. I just find some of the girls are a lot less closed off or not
Mhm.
willing to kind of just like be welcoming or friendly or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I just found that people are a lot more open to like not only like meeting new people, but like forming new relationships. I don't know if that's just because it's my first semester of college, but I haven't
I think
experienced
that's
anything
great to
other
hear
than
that that's
that.
happened. Have
So
you, are you doing the Greek system? Are you
I
doing that?
am.
Okay.
So rush is they have delayed rush, which is
Okay.
really what I think is nice, but there's obviously different opinions on that. And I
Mhm.
haven't gone through it, so I don't really know. But rush is in the spring, so it's in January, but obviously there's a lot going on with that in the first semester. And that's a really interesting process because I've never done that before. And people were always told me this would be like if you come from the Midwest and you go to school in the South, or just like go to a school in a different area of the United States than where you're from, people usually tell you it's like a lot of people are like warning me, like, this is just gonna be so different. Like, you should be really scared because it's just like the girls are just different in the South and like all these things. And it was like crazy. And I just haven't really experienced that at all. So
I
don't
think
let
that's
people.
great. And I hope that you have the same discernment with where you, during
And
rush that you do,
yeah,
that you did with college applications. It's very similar. Once again, you're waiting to be chosen.
right.
And so we want to make
So
sure that we are aware that we are also doing the choosing by,
choosing, yes.
yes.
So it's like I always think about it like it's like it's two people decision because
Mhm.
it's not just you. Like you have to like stop thinking, not you, but
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
are listening
Yeah.
have to not.
Yeah. All of us
Yeah, you
collectively.
can't like some of these types of decisions. You can't just focus on giving them all the power of like their decisions. Like you have to think about like, well, do I actually want it or not?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to like also go into these big decisions, whether it's sorority or college, whatever it is, with becoming really clear on like what is important to you and why, and making sure that's like fully for you and will be like fulfillment for your own and not just like what other people think. Because if you only focus on what other people think, you'll never be happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's just a statement.
We'll have to have you back to talk about the rush experience because I think that'll be helpful. I think it's really helpful for people to, well, I guess our listener and viewer will tell us, right? But I think
hopefully it's helpful.
I think it would be helpful if I was a junior, maybe even a sophomore in high school, senior in high school, to hear someone who is obviously successful. You have a really great nonprofit. You've done a lot of things. You've had a lot of accolades. You've had some really cool experiences, and you've experienced rejection. You've experienced
and like
things not
I
going
still
exactly as
experienced
you.
rejection.
Yeah,
Like I applied for a club this semester. I did not get in.
Those clubs that you can get rejected from.
Yeah, because you have to apply into them.
Oh my God, everything's so intense.
Yeah, they make it intense for no reason. But
like a club, like for
like it was a business fraternity.
Oh yes, there's they have some of that at USC. There was we have some.
We're actually the USC of the South.
Okay, so that makes sense to me.
That's what I've heard. But
well, I'll have to have that girl. We have a few WIT teens that went to USC, and we can have I think at least one of them was in the business frat there. Well, it's like it was both there was guys in it. So I guess it's a club, but it was like there was guys. But there was
a guy and girl.
Yeah. Fraternity. The stories that she shared though, I mean, I always like to think that rejection is protection or rejection is redirection, because
I agree.
Ultimately we have to decide in life if everything is happening for us or to us. There's really no other, those are your options. Those are the lenses that's the two choices that you get for how you're going to look at life. Things are happening for me or to me. Mm-hmm. So if it's for me, then those type of things that you get, you don't get accepted to the club. You don't get, it's like, oh, okay, well, obviously things are happening for me. So I thought I wanted that, but I guess there's something else better coming for me. Because that's how you would think. If you think that everything's happening to you, it'd be like, once again, I didn't get into it. Once again, I didn't get the thing. And if you think about what kind of choices you'll make as a human, if you see things happening for you or to you, the person who feels like everything's happening to them will be very much a victim. And you think
Agreed.
like a victim mentality person, someone who's like, oh, everything's
so bad.
happening to me. Are they moving their body every day? Or like, probably not, because they're probably just like whining and like, just like complaining. Are they fueling their body well? Probably not. They're probably like, I don't want to get into like what they're probably doing, but just thinking about people that see that things are happening for them, there's a resilience that is built where they go, yep, okay, I didn't get that, but I'm not going to not go to my workout today. I'm not going to not go to dinner with my friends tonight. I'm not going to let this derail everything else in my life.
Yes.
And I think that is what I just see you doing. And I've seen you do that for over a year. It's not easy. It's a muscle I have to work. It's a muscle a lot of people, because we always talk about this. The world profits off of us feeling like we're victims. We will overconsume. We will overspend. We will compromise our morals and values when we feel less than. And
it does.
So, right. It just,
it never gets you anywhere. So
yeah. I mean, it gets you, it gets you somewhere. It just gets you somewhere I don't want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to live it. So give us, we're coming up on time here. Give us an update on how it's a girl's life. Are we taking a pause because it's a lot to do while we're
it's interesting. It's something that I know I can never not do because it's such a big part of me. But I knew that I wanted to allow myself the time to get involved in my school and whatever that meant, or at least get acclimated, because it was a huge transition. So I didn't want to like put the pressures of fully continuing it on. But now that I've settled, I've been able to like keep up the podcast, and I had a lot of episodes that I recorded over the summer that I've been able to like slowly push out, just because that's super fun for me and I like it, and I think it still gets out like some empowerment for girls, which is always important.
Maybe we should have you share this one too on yours. I think your view. I think do like a joint launch. I don't know, but I feel like your audience.
I can like post it as well. I think they would really like to hear it too.
Okay, plus, we'll discuss that once we stop recording.
For sure. And then for the events and everything, because that's also part of our nonprofit. Actually, I saw in my memories that 2 years ago today was one of our first events with John Carroll University, which was an amazing partnership.
So cool.
October 8th in 2020. So it was like in the mix of the pandemic, which is also crazy. It was virtual from like being in person every year. But I definitely want to do something with the events in the future. I kind of want it to be in Dallas because that's where I go to school, and I would love to get involved in that community because I never have.
I love that for you. Yeah.
And I kind of don't know if I want it to be with working with the high schools that are close by, because there is one that is really close by, or doing a community event, or doing something with college girls. So we don't know. But
I love that.
There's a lot of ideas, and there's so much I could do. So
I think that's really helpful, because so many people that listen to this and watch this have their businesses or have things that they're working on, and eventually they're going to go to college. And it's good to hear like, okay, so Charlotte's giving herself some grace and letting herself see what's going to happen, versus like, I am keeping it going and I work on it 5 hours, like, it's like, no, it's okay. It's not real. I don't think it's realistic. And so I love that you're being honest about it.
I agree. And I think that's like the best way to do it, because then I can let myself, get ready and get used to all of everything that's changing, and then bring it back in when I can. But I also know if I like don't do it specifically, which I'm not saying I won't, it will always like be in some sort of shape or form of what I'm doing, because it always will be a part of me. Like that's just truth. So
let's wrap up with your advice. What advice would you give 16-year-old Charlotte?
That was super long ago, so there'd be so much I would have to tell her. That was 3 years ago. 16-year-old me.
I love that. That's like long for you. You're like,
well, yeah, I know, but that's just
it's just different. Okay, 16-year-old Charlotte. It's a different life. It is. It's very much it.
So that seems like long ago, but I would say to remember that everything that seems super important in the moment will always seem not as important in the future at some point. And that can like come with time. But I think that just kind of like I always remind myself when I get like really like uncomfortable in a situation or just something doesn't go like the way that I want it to go, that at some point the feeling is always temporary and that
Mm-hmm.
you will be able to get back up from that experience. And like when you get into a really bad situation, like the only way to get out of it is to, rise up and go above. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just you can't go like back down because you're already there, I guess, in
Yeah.
that situation. So I heard that somewhere and it's just like, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, you can go up, you can go down. You get to choose. You get to choose where you're going to
You
put
get
your
to choose,
energy,
yeah.
what you're going to do. And what advice, like, what are you doing today that will make future Charlotte proud?
I think I'm trying to keep like an open mind about everything that's like happening and just like knowing that like there's something good that's going to happen from everything that's happening right now, and like all the growth that's happening, it has to lead up to something good. Because I just think like that's just how life works. And you never know about that reason, like in the moment. You just have to wait and it will make sense in the future. And that's okay.
Sounds like what you're doing today it sounds like you're really working on your mindset.
Yeah.
That'll make future Charlotte happy.
Yes.
That you're taking care of your mind right now, and that your perspective and you're being patient with the process, even though maybe things aren't happening maybe exactly as you want them to. I think that's good. Okay. Where can everyone find you if they want to follow along and listen to your podcast? Where can they find you?
Continue to find more. I talk about all this stuff a lot of the time at It's Girls Life org on Instagram, and then It's Girls Life is podcast. So you can find that on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere.
And I believe that the Insta handle has a Z for.
It does not actually.
Where did I see?
The Z's are in the email.
Oh, in the email. I was like, where do I know that there's a Z somewhere? Okay,
fair
enough.
Yeah. Okay. It's because like years ago in 2015, when I started this like Gmail account for It's a Girl's Life, they wouldn't let me use S's. So weird. They already took them.
Okay. So okay. Oh, that's probably okay. Well, I'm glad you got it. So It's a Girl's Life on Instagram, the podcast. And Charlotte, I'm just thank you for making time today to hang out with us and to share from the heart. Anytime. And to be vulnerable. I mean, there's so many different ways this chat could have gone. And I feel like the approach that you decided to take and your honesty is really going to help other young girls and guys as they navigate the transition from high school to college. And I hope that you'll come back and keep talking to us about how that transition's going.
Yes, I hope so too. And I hope this was like helpful to anyone listening. And just like, if you could take anything, it's just like, you could do it. I don't know.
You can do it. Is that what you said? You can do it.
Oh, well, I did say that, but I didn't mean like that. But yeah, that works too.
All right, everybody, we're going to sign off now. And we'd love if there was something in here that brought you value, which I certainly hope it did. Please share this episode in your stories and tag us and comment with your takeaways. That just helps us know that what we're doing is something that you want us to keep doing, and also helps our guest feel really good and valued, and that giving their time to us was worthwhile. So thank you, everybody, and keep doing WIT.
Thank you.